Well, thank you all for having me. It's been really great to get to know all of you since yesterday, and I look forward to meeting those that I haven't today. So once again, my name is Andrew Cameron. I work for the American Association of Port Authorities, and before that, I was an intern with the Mission to Seafarers in Hong Kong. Now, I can't really give you any higher thoughts on internship programs because I'm still very new to my career. I'm not going to tell you my age, but since last Saturday, I can now rent a car and run for the U.S. House of Representatives. But what I can do for you is tell you my story, and maybe you can learn a little bit about what I did going into my internship and then after as well. So after I graduated college, I joined the Young Adult Service Corps, which is a group with the Episcopal Church, which is a partnership and mission with different organizations around the Anglican Communion. They send a lot of people to Latin America to teach English. They send people to Africa, to the Philippines, and they sent me to Hong Kong to work with Seafarers. So I partnered with the Mission to Seafarers, and it was an incredible experience and journey that really put me right into the maritime industry. I knew nothing about it before, but right now I can tell you that I am fully drinking the Kool-Aid, and I'm constantly learning ever since. So part of YASC also, one of the really cool things is we had to raise $10,000 to be part of the mission. So there was kind of an accountability aspect of that too. So since the beginning when I signed up, I had to kind of, be able to tell my story of where I was with the Episcopal Church, where I was with my faith, and where I wanted to go with it. I didn't have all the answers, but with that, I was hoping that people would be able to latch on to my experience and help fund my trip to Hong Kong. And I can say that my experience with the mission in Hong Kong was great. The mission in Hong Kong is very unique in the fact that it is very, very strong. I had a wonderful mentor in the Reverend Stephen Miller. I had plenty of ships to visit. It's one of the largest ports in the world, and we have a lot of resources. Having conversations with a lot of you, I commend all the work you're doing. It sounds like a lot of you are very scrappy in the resources you have and the work you're doing. So I guess a lot of the things I learned in Hong Kong, I learned not only from the people at the mission, but from the seafarers. Every day visiting Seafarers, I heard new stories, new experiences, and I've really taken that with me moving forward and helping tell my story, but also be able to tell others' stories. As a port intern, I had to learn very quickly what it meant to be the face of an organization. A lot of the times I was the only person visiting a ship, and as people were talking about yesterday, I forget who it was, but they were saying how a lot of people who visit ships are ambassadors for the U.S. I very much was an ambassador for the Mission to Seafarers when they came to Hong Kong. So I had to learn very quickly that it was my responsibility to be the face of the organization and, put that first over my interest. Another interesting thing about Hong Kong is there's a lot of expats who live there, and many of them are either teachers or in the finance industry. I was kind of an interesting mix of that because I was, working in the nonprofit industry and working in the maritime industry. So I love telling my story. Everyone I came about, I'd tell them about the port. Most of them had only seen it driving out of the airport. They saw it on the right, and they didn't realize how big of an impact it had. So a lot of what I was doing was, educating other people that I knew about what the industry was and, what our work was and what seafarers were doing. That was the important thing. How seafarers are the cog in that wheel. So, like I said, I think that storytelling is very big, but also I think that there's a lot of value in creating relationships, and we've heard a lot about that yesterday and today. So in that, I think that the relationships that I built in Hong Kong, I've taken that to what I'm doing now with the American Association of Port Authorities. The association is we represent over 130 public port authorities in the US, Canada, the Caribbean, and Latin America. And in partnership, we work to move the industry forward in the Western Hemisphere. So we provide a lot of events, a lot of resources, and a lot of partnerships in that. And in that, I think that there's just a lot of value. Our industry is moving so much that when we can take a step back and work together, I think that we can all move forward. So I don't particularly work with the maritime ministries anymore, but that is a huge part in what our industry is doing in the U.S. So like I said, I value the work you're doing, and I hope that the work as a whole, we can all work together to make it better. So I'm not going to get into a lot of the things that I did day to day because we've talked a lot about what it means to be an intern with maritime ministry, but there are a few takeaways that I think that we can all learn from. Interns have a huge responsibility of visiting seafarers. We are very young, and we don't realize, I don't think I realized when I was an intern how much responsibility I had. Visiting seafarers, a lot of them have left their families, and they've taken on that responsibility. As Ken was saying, they have so much responsibility at a young age to do the right thing for their family, and we also have a responsibility to them as a lifeline. So being an intern at a young age is, I learned what it was to take on a responsibility and, really be able to help people. And going off of that, I think that all your interns will find themselves in a very difficult situation now and then, and they're gonna have to find a situation where they have to step up. Visiting ships, you never know who you're gonna meet on those ships. I mean, I have constant stories of, situations where I just didn't know the answers, but, I had to take a step back and I had to learn, what am I gonna do right now? Because maybe my supervisor was out of the country, maybe I was the only one, maybe I was the only person for the mission of Seafarers that had to make a decision. So being able to step back, being able to find out where the next step is, and then going from there. I'll give one example, and maybe that explains a little bit. So I was on a ship, and there was a Bangladesh seafarer who spoke broken English, and he had diabetes, and he needed to see a doctor. So I helped get him ashore and send him to a doctor, but the problem was the doctor didn't understand what a seafarer's life was. So she was saying, well, why is he eating white rice instead of brown rice? So I was kind of playing the in-between role in that, and I had really no experience of any of that. But just being able to be there and help tell the doctor, this is his story, this is his situation, and this is how he needs help. That's just one of many examples of how it's important to take responsibility and find, the next step and figure out how you can connect those relationships together. And finally, I think that there are a lot of teachable moments for interns. Every day they meet new people, and I think as supervisors, it can be really important for you to sit down and, really help them comprehend what those situations are. It's hard in the moment for young people to, see the bigger picture. So if you can help those interns understand what the situation is, how they handled it, and maybe not give any pointers or criticism at the time, but let them understand what they did and how their actions affected the whole situation, and give them that big picture. I think that's really important, and I think that's something big that you can take away from this. So like I said, I work for AAPA now. I didn't see myself getting back into the maritime industry. I found myself kind of fall back into it, but I couldn't be happier in it. I think every single day there's a different task, there's a different opportunity in it, and I look forward to continue to learn and work with you all in the future. And if there's any way that I can help tell your story in the port world in the Western Hemisphere, let me know. Thank you.